Hello, welcome back to my fave fanfics. Here, I post, well, my favorite fanfictions, if that wasn't obvious. I do hope you'll enjoy them as much as I do. Please like and subscribe for more content. Without further ado, let's get started.
Welcome, my dear faves, to the first part of What If My Hero Academia Reacts to Hunter x Hunter. Credit goes to Makifinity. Chapter 3. Tests X of X tests. Previously. Okay. I'll take responsibility for bringing you three to the port closest to the exam site. Smiles were across the face of the three applicants. Yay. Quote. Upbeat music played as the title appeared. Tests X of X tests. I wonder if the Hunter exam starts now. Mirio said, eyes shining bright at the title. A city sitting near the seaside appeared, dozens of people below, with ships strewn alongside the harbor. Text written at the bottom identified the place as Doll Harbor. After winning the captain's favor, the trio, Gon, Kurapika, and Leorio arrived safely at Doll Harbor. Kurapika and Leorio were shown taking the place in, as it was also filled with various other applicants for the Hunter exam. Even though everyone on board was failed to take the test, there are still a lot of people. The captain really wasn't kidding, Vlad King said, eyeing the people that were strewn about. Thanks, Captain. Gon shook hands with the older man. It was really fun. The captain gave out a laugh before saying, I had fun, too. Removing the pipe, he told Gon, right. As a token of my appreciation, let me give you some advice. Advice? The captain pointed out. Look. See that big cedar tree on that hilltop? Past the buildings of the city was a hill, with an enormous tree sat on top. Gon hummed in confirmation. You should make your way there first. It's a shortcut to the exam site. Should he be telling him that? Spinner questioned. Well, the captain did promise to get them as close to the exam site as he could, so I think it's fair, Momo responded. The two paused, before making brief eye contact, realizing one was a hero and the other was a villain. The uncomfortable feeling lasted for a moment, before fading away. A shortcut. Got it. At Gon's loud exclamation, a man with short hair passing by pressed himself behind a few crates that were right behind the captain, listening in. So, I just need to head for that cedar tree. I'll do that, Captain. Quote. The man listened intently to the golden piece of information. Thanks. Best of luck. The man winked at Gon. Who's that guy? Ciro grumbled. Someone obviously trying to get a free ticket without earning it, Ectoplasm sighed disapprovingly. Yep. Same to you. Gon ran his way towards his friends, waving goodbye to the captain who had helped him make it this far. Take care. Quote. Rest easy, Jing. Your son has grown up to be a good kid, the captain thought to himself. Over where the man from before had hidden, he grinned to himself, at the information he obtained. Wait, did he just imply that Gon's dad is dead? Kaminari questioned. The people around him hesitated for a bit. Let's hope not, Aizawa said, eyebrows furrowing. With each growing second, he found himself asking if Mito, Gon's aunt, should have really let him go. The trio stood in front of a large standby map of the nearby and surrounding areas. Leorio sighed. Huh. That's strange. Why? Gon questioned. Leorio faced Gon, holding up a piece of paper. According to the notice I received, the exam is supposedly held somewhere in Zabin City. He turned back to the map in front of them. Right now, we're here. He pointed to the 3 houses drawn on the map, with a large tree up ahead. That cedar tree is in the opposite direction. Lirio pointed to Zabin City, which was straight across from where the cedar tree was placed. I can't see the captain lying to Gon, Mike stated dubiously. Maybe it's a bit of a mix-up, Uraraka offered. Or a deliberate trap, all for one hummed to himself in thought. Perhaps you misheard him, Kurapika offered to Gon. Gon shook his head before pointing to the very tree on the map. No, he told me to head toward that cedar tree. I see, Kurapika said to himself, as he thought about what to do. And this notice isn't any help. Where exactly in Zabin City are we meant to go? Lirio complained, putting a hand behind his head as he eyed the paper. No offense bro, but I don't think that information is all that reliable, Kirishima said, crossing his arms. Where'd he even get it from? A few from Class 1A shook their heads in agreement. Our task is to find the exam site using a limited amount of information. It's just another test before we'll be allowed to take the hunter exam, Kurapika informed him. Defensively, Lirio turned to the 2. I knew that, I already knew that. Quote. Anyway, I'll go have a look. Gon told Lirio, before turning to walk in the direction of the cedar tree. The captain must have had a reason to suggest that. Gon has put his faith in the captain, Asui said. The captain hasn't given any reason to doubt him, Tokiyami noted. Hey, are you serious? Lirio called out after the boy. Kurapika watched with Lirio for a moment at the retreating back of Gon. The bus going to Zabin is about to leave, the man pointed at the yellow bus with people gathered around. We should just take it. Gon waved his hand without looking back. Hey! Quote. Smacking his forehead, Lirio grumbled, man, he's gotta learn that you can't just trust everyone. Without a word, Kurapika also began to walk ahead after Gon. Hey! Kurapika. Quote. Any guess is as good right now, like Kurapika said before, they're not running off of much information. They just have to hope luck is on their side, Aizawa said. Gon's behavior interests me more than the captain's advice. I'm going with him. Tucking the paper into his suit, Lirio said, oh, is that so? See ya. Picking up his suitcase he turned away. Wasn't very long, nice knowing you. Hand buried in his pocket, Lirio scoffed at the 2. Wait, they're gonna split. Mina said, already getting used to the idea of the 3 together. That would suck, they just met. Hagakuri exclaimed. Guess he's not as independent as I thought, I'm just gonna take the bus. 2 men in an alley whispered amongst themselves. So it was a trap. Stopping in his steps, Lirio's ear couldn't help but follow along with the conversation. Seems like none of the buses made it to Zabin City. They laughed. Rookies usually fail this part because they're too naive, one chuckled. The way to the hunter exam is riddled with traps, All Might said. Thinning out the herd before they even reach the start line, Gran Torino chuckled aggressively. I like it. Quote. All Might felt his stomach clench and swoop at the sound of his former mentor's voice. Lirio stood frozen in time, sweating. The scene cut to the man chasing down the road after Gon and Kurapika. Wait for me. Lirio cried out. Having caught up on the road to the 2, he offered weak excuses. Well, I knew you guys would be lonely without me. And it's no fun traveling alone, he rambled to them. So I decided to keep you guys company a while longer. Bakugo rolled his eyes. He's so obviously lying, they'd have to be deaf, Midnight voiced, crossing her arms unimpressed. The two paid him no mind. Behind, the man from before trailed after them silently. Eri scowled at the screen, putting on her best menacing face as if to scare the man away. If Aizawa noticed, he didn't say a thing, except for burying his face in his scarf to hide a smile. The three reached upon a city, the howls of the wind noticeable due to the emptiness. Ahead, a raven crowed. What a creepy place, Lirio said quietly as they made their way through. I don't see a single soul around. No, there are a lot of people here, Gon objected. His senses are freakishly high, Dabi mumbled, raising an eyebrow. It looks so dull and gray, it's giving me shivers, oh mon dieu. Aoyama dramatically uttered. What? Lirio said disturbed. Suddenly, narrow and heavy doors pushed open, revealing the shadows of two people standing cloaked. The trio went on alert. The wheels of a cart pushed forward slowly, as footsteps came nearer. They watched the scene before them, speechless. About a dozen masked people in white robes stood before them, with a table on wheels in the center, an old woman seated. They carried various instruments. What's with these guys? Quote. What? Present mic question. Exciting, the woman spoke ominously. Exciting? Leorio repeated after her. Exciting, she said again, eyes closed. Exciting? Leorio gulped. Her eyes flew open as she shouted, time for the exciting two-choice quiz. A horrible-sounding instrumental played with the odd cymbals crashing before the raven squawked again. The three balked at the scene, facial expressions clueless. Across the theater, the faces of several, including the majority of Class 1A and a few of the teachers, mimicked the ones on screen. Overdoing it much? Zero winced. What? Giroux blankly stated, having no other thoughts. You boys are headed for that lone cedar tree on the hill, correct? To reach that tree, you must pass through this town, the woman told them. I will pose a single question. Hold up, Leorio said, as his brain finally caught onto what was happening. What's going on here? The woman continued. You'll have 5 seconds to answer. Answer incorrectly, and you're disqualified, she warned. You'll have to give up taking this year's hunter exam. Another one of these tests? Toga slightly whined. They weren't kidding about shedding as many wannabes as they could, were they? Bakugo stated. I see, Kurapika said. Then this is part of the hunter exam. Setting down his suitcase, Leorio added, I see how it is. I happen to be a quiz expert. A split second later, he yelled out, wait. Only one question? Quote. Your answer will be either the number 1 or 2, she said, signifying with her fingers. Any other answer will be considered incorrect. I'm getting an ominous feeling already with this type of test, Kaminari groaned. I mean, it's only one question, right? I think they're gonna get it right, Kirishima pronounced hopefully. A few heads nodded in encouragement. Hold on. All 3 of us share one question? So if one of them answers incorrectly, I'm disqualified, too? He pointed at Kurapika and Gon. Crossing his arms, Kurapika argued, unlikely. It's more likely that you will make a mistake. What was that? Leorio protested. Gon spoke, throwing his hands in the air. But you know, this way's easier, since only one of us needs to know the answer. He rubbed the back of his head sheepishly. I'm not good at quizzes. At least he's honest, Mina reasoned. I suppose, fair point. Hey there. Hurry it up. Walking along up the path was the man who was trailing them. Or else I'll answer the question first. Who are you? Leorio asked. Gon responded to Leorio's question. He followed us all the way from the port, huh? Seriously? The man held out his hands. Sorry, kid. I just happened to overhear your conversation. That guy, Uraraka's eyes narrowed, puffing a bit. No one likes a fucking freeloader, Bakugo sniped out. Can he really be blamed for using everything at his disposal? There are no set rules after all, Mr. Compress said airily. A few of the students subtly turned around to glare at the villain, who remained stoic as ever behind his mask. The elderly woman spoke up once more. What will you do? Leorio let out a weak shrug. He seems eager to take it. We should let him go first. That way we'll know what kind of question to expect, he reasoned. One of the figures placed a podium across from the table. I don't mind, Gon piped up. I have no objections, Kurapika said as he stepped out of the way along with the other two. The man walked up to where the podium was placed. Then I'll get to it. The man slyly looked at the three who had chosen to take their turn second. Fools. I'll leave a trail of traps behind me. Seriously? I knew it, he had a sleazy look from the beginning, Hagakure exclaimed, waving her arms erratically in frustration. Here is your question, a horn squeaked with the raven crowing once more. Rogues have captured your mother and your lover. You may rescue only one. 1. Your mother. 2. Your lover. Who will you save? The trio became startled at the weight of the question posed. How is this even a quiz? Quote. Is she serious? Iida gaped a bit. What type of question is that? Kaminari cried out. Aizawa's eyes widened. What? All Might stared at the screen for a minute before looking down at his hands. Ah, this sounds familiar, his mind flashed to a memory, his mentor standing strong before him. Toshi, if you were sent to rescue a mother and her child but upon arrival, you could only save one, who would you choose? He closed his eyes, clearing his mind before focusing on the screen ahead. The man smirked, before hitting the buzzer. The answer is 1, he smugly stated, arms crossed. Oh? Why do you say that? The woman asked blankly. Because you can't replace your mother. But you can find another lover. What? Leorio said behind him. Wow, he's gonna be a great husband to some poor thing, Dabi remarked. Seriously? What a jerk, Ojiro said, clenching his fist. The raven crowed. You may pass, the woman motioned behind her. What? Glancing behind him, the man smiled nastily. You just have to tailor your answer to what the old lady wants to hear. Later, he left the three behind satisfied in himself. Fed up, Leorio griped, you've got to be kidding me. How is that the right answer? Kurapika watched Leorio's outburst. We're just supposed to give the answer the old lady wants? And that's considered correct? Gon crossed his arms and thought. There's no way that's the right response, Momo said with a finality. But she let him go through? Sato questioned. It would be completely dishonorable if someone with such a crude and apathetic mindset were allowed to proceed forward, Iida said, his frown growing by the second. Ribbit, it can be argued that he technically didn't pass the test, she simply told him to go ahead, Suyu said, although going unheard by most. Nedzu's ears twitched, catching Suyu's words. He turned to her with a wide smile on his face, saying nothing more or less. "Hey, say something," Leorio demanded. The raven's crow was his only response. Pissed, Leorio balled up his fists as he muttered, "I won't put up with this sham. I'll find a different route." As he went to turn around, the woman called out. "It's too late. Refuse to take the quiz, and you're disqualified." Leorio's teeth gritted together. That's just ridiculous. Different people would give different answers. There is no right answer, Leorio argued. In the back, the big three had a chain reaction, all of them coming to a realization. So, hey, HxH. They all paused looking at each other's wide-eyed expressions, before also noticing they had all realized the same thing. Kurapika's face morphed into one of realization. "No right answer," he said under his breath. "I get it." The woman noticed the sudden change. "Leorio." Kurapika called out to tell him. "There is no answer at all," Midoriya spoke up. Several heads turned to him. "Ethically, there's no way to choose the life of one person over the other, regardless of how close the relation you have to each person is. A life is a life. That can't be argued. It's a trick question." Aizawa cleared his throat, drawing the attention of the class towards him. "Well put, Midoriya. On your paths as heroes, you'll come across this, but rather not as a question, but real-life situations. You'll have to be ready to make a split-second decision." "Wait." The woman put up one hand to stop him. The two turned towards her. She folded her hands once more. "The cat-eyed boy has figured it out. Not another word from you. Say anything but the answer, and you're immediately disqualified." Kurapika tensed at the words, and looked back at Leorio, who had gone back to sporting an angry expression. "Wake up, Leorio, it's a simple trick." His eyes switched to Gon, who had not said anything since, stuck in deep thought. "Gon. Despite the fact that it's a trick question, it still bugs me," Mina murmured. "You can only choose one. Let them both die," Twice exclaimed. "Here is your question," the woman began. The horn squeaked and the raven squawked. "Your son and daughter have been kidnapped. You can only rescue one. 1. Your son. Or 2. Your daughter. Who will you rescue?" Quote. Leorio's face twitched in unexplainable anger. "She's messing with us." As Leorio made his way towards the shadows of a building, the old woman began to count down. 5. He grasped a long ply of wood, abandoned on the side of the wall. "Go ahead and count us down. 4. "No way, the idiot's gonna seriously try it," Bakugo growled. "Whatever's going on in that boy's head is going to for sure land him an immediate disqualification," Gran Torino grumbled, wishing he were there to dropkick the younger. The man swung a few times, measuring the weight and force of it. 3. Kurapika tensely watched Leorio out of the corner of his eye. 2. He continued to furiously swing, expression darkened. 1. Gon remained where he stood, not noticing the rising tension around him. Buzz. "Time's up." Springing from where he stood, Leorio held up the wooden stick above his head, letting out a battle cry as he descended down on the old woman. A few sharp gasps rang out. "Hot-blooded and stubborn as well," Aizawa hissed. So far, there wasn't a way he could see himself continuing along watching the actions of what reminded him so well of his students on screen. The stick broke, shards flying in the air. Startled, the crow flew away. Kurapika stood in Leorio's path, blocking the attack with one of his nunchucks. The woman remained expressionless. Why? Leorio cut him off. Don't stop me, Kurapika. I won't be satisfied until I've taught this hag a lesson. Quote. Pushing him down, Kurapika yelled in his face, calm down, Leorio. How am I supposed to calm down? He fumed. We passed the test. You want to put that in jeopardy? Quote. He definitely figured it out, Vlad stated, crossing his arms. Blinking, Leorio stepped back, confused at what Kurapika told him. We passed? Putting down his weapon, Kurapika sighed, we gave the right answer. Silence was the correct response. Addled, Leorio pressed on. Silence? What do you mean? You said it earlier, Kurapika explained. The scene quickly flashed back to when Leorio angrily stated, there is no right answer. Precisely. This quiz has no right answer. However, we could only state one or two as the answer. In other words, we weren't meant to respond at all. Similar to what Midoriya said earlier, Todoroki hummed to himself. Kurapika put a finger to his lip. Silence was the only response. Leorio pointed behind him. But what about the other guy? He dumbly said. Kurapika shook his head. She never said he was right. She only said, you may pass. He turned to the woman still seated. In other words, that path is the wrong path. Am I right? Quote. Nedzu let out a small high-pitched chuckle from the brief breakdown Kurapika gave. His intellect certainly doesn't disappoint. The UA teachers felt small shivers creep along their spine at the tone Nedzu spoke in. That rat is certainly up to no good, Aizawa thought to himself. She let out a small smile. Precisely, she rose from her seat. The correct path is over here. Two of the figures opened the door to their left. Inside was pitch black, with the smallest twinge of light carrying over at the end. This leads you directly to the tree. Walk 2 hours and you'll reach the top. Still stunned, Leorio weakly said, oh, so that's what this was about. A couple lives in the cabin beneath that cedar tree. They serve as navigators. If you meet their standards, I believe they will guide you to the exam site, she informed them. Heck yeah. They're getting there. Hagakure whooped. That other loser is going to be setting down meaningless traps. Serves him right, Kaminari smugly stated. The broken stick still in Leorio's grasp cluttered to the ground. He approached her. Grandma, I'm sorry for my rudeness, he bowed. It's quite all right. I do this job because I enjoy meeting people like you. Leorio looked up in her direction. Huh? Quote. She turned to him before warmly saying, do your best and become a good hunter. Leorio gave her a hopeful expression, laughing. A loud sigh broke through, and he turned around. Behind them, Gon dropped to the ground, his eyes searching the skies. It's no use. I can't think of an answer. Now that you think about it, she's probably met hundreds of Leorios who've tried to attack her, Kirishima winced. How did he miss that entire interaction, Shinso said at Gon's words. Who knows, bro, the little guy's honestly in his own world, Kaminari smoothly replied. The two eyed each other for a moment awkwardly before returning their attention forward. A moment of silence passed, before Leorio let out a light-hearted laugh. You're still trying to find an answer? You can stop, huh? Why? Gon asked naively. The quiz is over, Kurapika said. I know. Gon sat criss-crossed on the road. But you know, What if I run into a situation like that and I can only save one person, what should I do? Leorio and Kurapika stared at Gon. It wouldn't be right to choose just one. But one day, I might have to make that choice. The words hung over their heads. That's right, the woman thought. That's the essential point of this quiz. All Might felt the words of his deceased mentor ring in his head. There's no way I can choose between them. I'll save them both, I have to, a young Toshinori stubbornly stated. Nana watched him with an unreadable expression. Toshi, I am not asking you to choose between the two. He looked up at his mentor, confused. But you just did. Toshi, she interrupted him. He stared at the chiseled back of the woman walking ahead of him. She remained silent for a few moments. Life does not abide by the same morals that we humans choose. In a perfect world, we'd always have the secret option of being able to save everyone we can. She turned to him. When the time comes, and it will, you will come across a situation similar to what I've told you. It could be a mother and her child. It could be two strangers. It could be siblings. As a hero, you'll be expected to make decisions in the heat of the moment. And you will. No matter what you say, instinct will drive you to make one decision. I am simply preparing you for reality. You will not be able to save everyone. He stared at his mentor intensely. I know of heroes who have broken themselves not even a year after gaining their hero license. Tormenting their minds with the what-ifs and could-haves. She smiled at him warmly. You are no less of a hero because of it, Yagi. The trio waved goodbye to the robed people and old woman, before making their way down the right path. What's abstract now, may become cruel reality later. The bright exit lit their way down the dark tunnel, casting dark shadows behind them. One must be ready for such crossroads in life. A slight tension lingered over the class full of hero students as they mulled over the implications of her words. Tilda. Frogs croaked along the dark path filled with tall grass. It's totally dark out. The sun had set, night settling in for the three who walked down the pathway. Walked 2 hours, she said? It was 2 hours, 2 hours ago. Damn, Leorio grumbled. A sign appeared, written, beware. Magical beasts. Quote. Magical? Ciro said in a tone of disbelief. It's probably just a sign made to scare anybody new to the area, Momo trailed. Vlad King hummed distrustfully. May not necessarily be magical, but certainly abnormal enough to warrant the name. Leorio stopped in front of it, his suitcase slung over his shoulder. Another, beware of magical beast sign? He scratched his head tiredly. Are we ever gonna make it to the exam site? Quote. Kurapika and Gon turned back to watch Leorio. I'm hungry. I need to take a dump. Leorio frantically waved his hands around. Leorio. Gon called. We'll leave you behind. Leorio was deaf to Gon's warning, still yelling out complaints. I gotta take a leak, too. Quote. A few giggles filled the air. Aizawa simply sighed. Looking ahead, Kurapika noticed something. I see it, he said. Gon turned around. Huh? A few feet ahead was the enormous cedar tree. A cabin lay at the base, showing no signs of life. Standing on the porch, Leorio knocked on the door. Anyone home? Are they out? Gon inquired. Grabbing the handle of the door, it slowly creaked open. An unlocked door certainly isn't a good sign, Sir Night Eye said to himself. The first signs of trouble were unlocked doors in places they should be locked. "We're entering," Leorio called out. The three stepped in, before immediately becoming shocked at the scene waiting for them inside. The house was turned upside down, furniture broken and thrown to the side, as an abnormally tall creature with bunny-like ears and long limbs stood facing its back to them. It let out a sneer laugh, eyes glaring red as it turned around to the trio. "It's a magical beast." Its hand clutched around the neck of a struggling woman. "A magical beast?" Gon cried out. "Why is it so big?" Exclamation mark. Kaminari exclaimed. "That thing is a magical beast?" Exclamation mark. Question mark. Mina cried out. A few of the pro-heroes winced, catching a glimpse of the talons on the beast's hands. A shape-shifting magical beast, the Kiriko. They can take human form. Kurapika quickly explained. A man lay wounded on the ground, bleeding from his left shoulder. They're extremely intelligent beasts. Quote, "He's got a woman," Gon pointed out. "And the guy on the floor needs medical attention," Leorio noted in concern. The beast sprung from the floor, shattering a window to leap outside, the woman still dangling in its clutches. "That overgrown sunflower's getting away," Bakugo said, clenching his fist. "Shape-shifting?" Midoriya thought to himself. In the back, Toga hummed to herself enthusiastically at the sight of bloodshed. Kurapika and Gon ran to the window, looking out in the direction which the Kiriko swung to. Please, my wife." The man on the ground pleaded, stretching out a hand at the two. Leorio kneeled to his side, immediately opening his suitcase. "Leorio, take care of the injured man," Kurapika said, putting down his satchel, as Gon leapt out the window. Kurapika followed suit. "Got it." Quote, "Why is it always Gon?" Hagakure whined out, concerned about the small boy. A shadowy figure hopped from branch to branch, as Gon and Kurapika ran after it on foot. He can follow that faint shadow, even through this dark forest, Kurapika thought to himself, relying on Gon's senses. The boy jumped into the trees, entering the beast's playing grounds. "He's impressive." The Kiriko continued to swing from branch to branch, evading Gon. "Kiriko, let her go." Quote. The beast grinned. "Come and get her, if you can." Gon froze in midair, before realizing his mistake and fell to the ground. Did it just speak? Todoroki blinked. "Wait, what?" Jiru said, her brain catching up a moment later. Kurapika turned, not losing momentum as he chased after the beast. "Wow! He can talk!" Gon exclaimed, catching up to his friend. "The magical beast, the Kiriko, can talk," Kurapika informed. "If they can talk, this will be easy." The boy leapt into the air once more, following the Kiriko. "Hey! Silly Kiriko!" he called out. The creature turned around at the taunt. "So, they're kind of like the principal then?" Suyu questioned. The furry rat in question remained unbothered, a suspiciously wide grin on his face. In almost the blink of an eye, Gon sprung upwards, bearing his fishing pole over his head. "He's fast," the beast thought, eye twitching with nerves. The hit landed, and the hold it had on the woman loosened, letting her freefall to the ground. Kurapika. The blonde jumped, breaking the woman's fall as he caught her. "That was reckless," Kurapika said, landing on one knee. The Kiriko perched on a branch, clutching its bruised head. "Stupid brat. You'll pay for this." It took off once more. His technique isn't the best, but he's sure got the spirit. All Might winced, wondering what would have happened if Kurapika was a second too slow. Wait. Gon chased after the beast again, the two hopping from branch to branch. The moon revealed itself from behind the clouds, dim light shining down where the woman and Kurapika had sat. "Are you okay?" Kurapika asked, a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Are you feeling any pain?" Her face was filled with markings and slight scratches. "I'm okay. What about my husband? How is he?" Quote. "Don't worry," Kurapika reassured. "Our friend is taking care of him." She clutched to Kurapika, voice desperate. "Please take me to my husband." Kurapika's eyes widened, as he glanced down at the markings adorning her wrist. A few across the room perked up at Kurapika's reaction. "What was that?" Midnight muttered. "Those tattoos," she gasped, before pulling away from him, grasping her wrist. Her expression changed to hostility. "You're Kurapika." The voice of Leorio called out. Turning away, he looked behind him to see Leorio running up. "Leorio?" Quote. "Wait, what about the tattoos?" Sato questioned. Recovery Girl narrowed her eyes at the screen. "Oh good, guess you guys are all right." Kurapika watched him warily before asking, "How is the man doing?" "Yeah, no need to worry," Leorio said, looking back in the direction of the cabin. His wounds weren't as serious as they seemed. "I gave him some painkillers, and he's sound asleep in the cabin," he finished off, satisfied. Kurapika's eyes remained closed. "I see. What does he mean they weren't serious? He just left him there?" The healing heroine fumed. Kurapika clutched his nunchucks for a moment, before striking him across the face. Stumbling back, it held its face before letting out a chuckle. "How did you know?" Kurapika looked back, with questioning eyes. "I don't follow," Iida said hesitantly. The rest of the class watched in confusion. In the back, All for One chuckled to himself, drawing attention from the other villains who were confused about the scene. "How did you know?" Its voice morphed from Leorio into one much gruffer and deep. "I was an impostor?" The Kiriko stood at its full length, having dropped its disguise. "It was a magical beast?" Question mark. Tokiyami said more as a statement. "Kurapika did say that they could shape-shift, but I didn't expect the disguise to be put so well together. They only glimpsed at Leorio?" Question mark. Unless, Midoriya trailed off, going into another one of his detailed analyses. "I didn't think that you were. I told Leorio to take care of the injured man and he consented. Given the magical beast is still on the loose, I attacked you for foolishly leaving an injured man on his own. That's all," Kurapika explained with a hardened tone. "That's right. This is why there are healing heroes and normal paramedics aren't simply sent on scene. Most of the time, these heroes who are injured need urgent care on the field where the villains haven't yet been detained. The hero has to be able to both defend themselves and the injured person while treating them. Simply leaving that man there would have been signing his death certificate," Recovery Girl explained. "Good to know the old guy wasn't as dumb as I thought," Bakugo mumbled. It let out a nasty chuckle, before springing away into the forest. Kurapika turned back to the woman. "Now then, tell me," he held up the weapon to her throat. "Who are you?" She looked at him with wide eyes, before smirking. "Wait, could she be a magical beast as well?" Uraraka said, eyes wide. "That wouldn't make sense if she was. Why would herself and her husband get attacked then?" Kirishima said. Unless it was staged, Midoriya said, a bit breathless. The scene switched back to Gon, who had landed on a branch, temporarily losing track of the beast. A rustle, and his attention immediately switched to where the beast had jumped from. Wait. Quote. Its hind legs propelled it forward across the branches, Gon swinging after him at full velocity. The Kiriko paused, before flinging into a bush of leaves. The green-haired boy flung after it, only to realize the beast had led him right over the edge of a cliff. Gon! Several voices cried out. Gon began to plunge off of the steep cliff, gravity taking hold. He flipped to face forwards, thrusting out his fishing line to loop around a branch. He put a foot on the rocky side of the cliff, before swinging himself upwards, backflipping back onto safe ground. That child, Aizawa gritted out, trying to keep sane for the nth time. He landed on one knee, before standing, wondering where the creature had gone. He heard a raspy snigger, spotting the Kiriko sitting on top of a pine tree, moon glowing behind. For a kid, you're pretty quick. Didn't expect you'd land a hit on me. Gon looked up at the Kiriko, expression slightly puzzled before he looked to the side. The massive beast jumped down, landing with a mighty thud, looming over the small boy. That thing has to at least be as tall as All Might, someone said. It looks like Pikachu if he was a gym rat, Nijire said absent-mindedly. Shigaraki choked back a snort. You're about to discover, it said, 3 sharp talons raised high, ready to bear down in a fatal move. How much that hit is going to cost you? Gon stood there blankly, occasionally looking around as if searching for something. The little guy could at least show some type of concern right about now, Snipe said nervously. Present Mike rubbed his temple. I'm beginning to think this is going to be a pattern. The beast snickered, Kiri, 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 before bringing down its clawed hand. Who are you? The Kiriko paused at the question, as a flock of birds behind took off in the sky. Gon blinked, unaware of the tense situation he was stuck in. You're not the one I hit earlier, huh? The creature blinked its eyes wide. Are you his friend? Quote. What? Mirio said after a few quiet moments. I don't know whether to question how many of these Kirikos there are or how this kid knows it's a different one, Gran Torino bluntly said. Nedzu let out a squeaky laugh. How can you tell that I'm not the one from earlier? The Kiriko dropped out of its offensive pose. What? Well, your face is completely different, Gon said pointing. And your voice is a little higher and thinner. The beast held back muffled laughs, before bursting out loud, a hand on its face. What? Did I say something funny? Gon asked innocently. Oh dear, it seems like they've been figured out, all for one crooned in the back. The air became frigid, as everyone was reminded of the presence of the dangerous mastermind in the room. The Kiriko could barely hold itself together before yelling out, Hey, honey. Come here. You've got to come check this out. Quote. The cabin appeared again, as 2 of the Kirikos were sat in front, along with the husband and wife off to the side watching. The trio stood in front of them. It's been ages since someone's been able to tell us apart. It makes us so happy. Quote. It was fake? Kaminari said, eyes switching back and forth at the couple and the pair of beasts. It seems like it was simply just another test. Nedzu added joyfully. Leorio leaned in Kurapika's direction. Can you tell them apart? He asked in a hushed manner. Kurapika blinked once, unmoving. No, not at all. Gon turned around, a small smile on his face. You see, the one Kurapika and I beat up is the husband. The other two sweat dropped, simultaneously thinking, which one are you talking about? Single quote. That kid is certainly one of a kind, Present Mike said, head steaming a bit looking at the two beasts who seemed identical. The beasts stepped forward. Allow us to introduce ourselves. We are the navigators. The pair of humans stood in front, the two beasts behind. Our family provides support for the hunter exam, one of them said. I'm their daughter. The wife said. I'm their son. The husband said. So they're magical beasts as well, Suyu stated. Their skill in looking like humans is certainly amazing, Sir Night-Eye noted. Well, who's to say they couldn't be human? So far, they speak and display intelligence levels that humans can. The only difference is that they happen to be able to take different forms, which in our world could be classified as a quirk without anyone knowing better, Nedzu chimed in. Everyone except a few cited the principal, with growing worry about exactly what his mind could be thinking of. Man, you had us fooled, Leorio sighed. The hunter exam changes location every year. It's quite difficult to find it, Akiriko said. So we navigators help by guiding the applicants to the site, another said. Oh, so that's how it works, Gon piped up. But we don't help every candidate, the daughter said, waving her hands. We test the applicants to see if they're qualified enough to take the exam, the son told them. Leorio straightened up his posture at the information. Mr. Kurapika, the daughter called out. Yes, he responded. You successfully used the most vague of hints to determine that we weren't a married couple. She pointed to the markings on her wrist. The hint was this tattoo, which in this region, signifies a woman is single for life. She proceeded to rub off the markings, showing that they were fake. What a sharp eye and quick thinking, Mr. Compress marveled. Mr. Kurapika demonstrated that he is very knowledgeable. Therefore, he passes. Kurapika let out a sigh of relief, as both Leorio and Gon also looked happy to know their friend would move on. Way to go, Kurapika. Gon congratulated with a fist bump. Yeah. Mr. Leorio. All three of their attention snapped back to the man who had begun speaking. Aizawa let out an appreciative noise. This may not be the hunter exam yet, but so far their methods of testing are more detailed and useful than that poor excuse of an entrance exam, he thought to himself. He glanced over at Nedzu, curious to see what it would take to convince the hybrid to change things up. Yeah, he responded back weakly. You never realized my true identity, the man began. Leorio tensed, sweat dripping off the side of his face. However, you dressed my wounds faster and more thoroughly than a doctor would, he continued. Most importantly, you continued to reassure me that my wife was safe. Leorio isn't as shallow as he seemed to be, Tamaki quietly whispered. That's so manly of him, Kirishima proudly declared. Stop it, it's embarrassing, Leorio said, adjusting his glasses, trying to fight off the blush and save face. Your compassion makes you worthy to take the hunter exam. Thus, you pass. Leorio stood in shock. Are really? Thank goodness, he said, sinking to the ground, almost passed out from nerves. You did it! Gon exclaimed, holding out his fist. The two fist bumped, sharing a quiet laugh. It's not one specific skill set or quality that guarantees them admission. That's pretty flexible, Midnight observed. Certainly gives everyone somewhat of a chance, Shinso mumbled to himself bitterly. And finally, Mr. Gon, one of the Kurikos said. Yes. Your superhuman physical ability and perception make you more than worthy to take the hunter exam. You pass, the beast finished off. The boy received another fist bump from both Kurapika and Leorio, celebrating the three of them passing onto the hunter exam. Gon let out a wide, toothy, closed-eyed smile. Gosh, if they take any more tests other than the actual exam, I might throw up, Uraraka voiced. No more surprises definitely sounds good, Jiru groaned a bit. A wing flared out, moon glistening. Alright. We will now take you to the exam site. The Kurikos, plus their children who had transformed back into their beastly shape, carried Gon, Kurapika, and Leorio, the former who was being carried by two. Isn't it great that we all passed? Gon called out against the blow of the wind to his friends, spirits high. It's too early to celebrate. We've merely earned the right to take the real exam, Kurapika stated humbly. He's not wrong, Tokiyami commented. Oh come on, they can be a little happy, can't they? Kaminari joked. What's wrong with celebrating a little? We're making progress, Leorio bantered. Honestly, you guys really should think more, Kurapika sighed admonishingly. Leorio kicked his feet out, thrashing around as he yelled, hey! Why do you have to be such a smart ass? Quote. That guy really wants to fall straight down on his ass, does he? Dabi remarked. All Might sighed, a warm feeling filling him to the core for the trio. He slipped, almost falling out of the Kurikos' grasps. Stop moving around. If you fall, it's your fault. They warned, wobbling as they tried to readjust the balance. Gon let out a laugh at his friend's antics. Gon and his friends enjoy a brief journey through the sky. However, they still haven't reached the starting line. As the screen turned black and the dim lights shone once more, Aoyama said, I hope that's not foreshadowing more tests before the exam, Kel malchance. If Ua did anything like that, I'm not so sure how my chances of getting in would look like, Kaminari nervously laughed to himself. That did require a bit of thinking there, Kaminari. I don't think you would have done too hot, Jiru teased. Hey. Quote. Away from the chatter of the class, Aizawa took the opportunity to approach Nedzu, who had remained in his seat, smiling joyfully into nothingness. The tired man narrowed his eyes. Nedzu. Aizawa. What interesting methods of testing, certainly amusing weren't they? Unsure where the creature was leading the conversation, he proposed his own idea. Certainly managed to make the physical portion of our exam a joke. The hybrid stared at the man before him. You already knew I didn't like the physical exam. It would do us some good if we could take example of. Aizawa, as I've said, there isn't much I can do to change the entrance exam, Aizawa scowled. As long as the Hero Commission remains as one of our top funders, we can't step on their toes so carelessly that they pull back their funding. I've been thinking of this for as long as you have. The hybrid continued. We play our cards where it's needed the most. Right now, there are several other matters that we need to tend to before we do something such as change the Hero Commission approved exam. Aizawa backed down, realizing he wouldn't be winning this debate. He couldn't help but feel frustrated and questioned why the Hero Commission had been keeping around such a shallow method of testing that allowed plenty of qualified hero students to slip through the gaps. Ares silently stared at Aizawa's brooding face, wondering what had upset him so. With the villains, Toga had been protesting, twice being a solid supporter, at being fooled by the fake blood. How great could that stupid exam be in the first place to have to jump through all these hoops? Shigaraki grumbled, a bit sour at also having been fooled. Compress simply laughed to himself, curious at the extent to which they would go to test the applicants. He was quite fond of mysteries and tricks himself. Dabi remained nonchalant, watching everything with a close eye. All for One had raised a hand to his chin, silent so far, as he gathered the bits and pieces of information that had been given so far. Like a puzzle. How interesting this little world is, he thought, humming quietly. Without any more words being spoken, the screen had begun to flicker again, and everyone's attention drew back. Unfortunately, this part is over. I hope you enjoyed it. My apologies for all those quotes. Please have a good morning, afternoon, evening or night. See you next time, faves.